What is going on, you guys? Theo here with the big review, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and today is Saturday, meaning that today is going to be our usual kind of chill discussion video. This is the video once per week where I can compile my thoughts in a non-rushed manner, instead of having to just pile on news and focus only on news, lest I give you guys another 30-minute video that no one wants to have to sit through, and have to keep my time down to a considerable amount. 15 minutes or so I feel like is the sweet spot. So in these videos I like to try and give my opinions a little bit more in detail. But before we get into all that, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe. You guys have been killing it lately. I haven't talked about this in a while, but we are almost at 600 subscribers. You guys are killing it. Maybe next week at this time we'll be talking about having surpassed 600 subscribers, and I appreciate all of you in the community for helping me out with that. So today, we're going to be talking about a couple different topics. I figured that the best way to start here would be to kind of get into these recent updates, and in the background you guys will be able to see a couple different things. I did have about 8,000 dice to blow through on this dice game the other day. When the world drop was about to end, I decided just to exchange everything and get these guys going, so I did that, and then I'm also going to be exchanging my world drop boxes to see how many rubies I get. And then we're going to go in and do about 80 or so tickets for Kasumi. So, all that being said, you guys can watch that while we talk. But before we get into the main topic, I want to talk about the updates. So, overall, the updates recently, I feel like, are positive. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that are upset about the Athena situation. And I know that there are people out there that are a little bit upset about the Lunatic Guild Raid situation and all these different things. And I will say that the Athena thing is kind of confusing. It's different. It's against the grain for their normal. However, do realize, guys, when we data mine things, we are getting into things that we have no confirmation. I mean, they could be working on things months in advance. Typically, these characters that we see, they've been finished for a while. And they only get into doing the assets and all that stuff for the packages and all that when they get closer to release. But yes, it is odd for their pattern to break off from its normal, but there are plenty of different logical reasons behind why that could have been the case. And so I realize for Athena fans, this is kind of upsetting to them, but at the same time, just be patient. She's going to be out there at some point. I don't think they're scrapping her entirely. Yes, they did remove those assets from the data, but it is what it is. I think there might be maybe a rebalance going on. Maybe they saw some of the backlash for her character design because they did choose a character model for her that a lot of people admittedly do not like and were very vocal about it on the forums. And so it could be a situation there where they're doing something with that. Maybe they are trying to get something figured out balance-wise with her. You never know. So as disappointing as it is, I would rather see them drop her and her make everybody happy and be what her fan base wants than her be something that disappoints them and upsets them. So that is something I think we will definitely see her, but bear with them. Now, as far as the other updates are concerned, the Kula event is awesome. I'm very happy they're doing that for new players because that really helps new players out a lot, being able to, even if they only get one copy of her starting out, great character to start out with. Being able to potentially awaken her to tier 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, if they're extremely lucky, even better. So I do like that they're doing that. The Guild Raid situation, I feel like, is a 6 in the one hand, half dozen in the other scenario. I don't feel like it changes a whole lot. Yes, you do get a very nice pool of stones whenever you're able to do the max damage in that mode, but it's still random, and those stones are largely available in other ways, in other places. The Starlight Stones are still available in the max tier for the expert mode boxes, so nothing there is necessarily game-breaking, nor is it anything that is going to give anybody an unfair advantage if a guild cannot get through Lunatic, which, by the way, yesterday, my guild was able to get through Expert. We all coordinated and just did it. We pretty much knew we could do it, we just hadn't coordinated around getting it done. But we all got it done yesterday, so now we've moved on to Lunatic, and now my big thought is, okay, do I go for a Liz and a memory so I can start doing Lunatic footage for you guys? We're going to see. I'm very heavily leaning towards potentially going for her and a memory, but we'll see. Stay tuned on that, but that footage will be coming later. But with the Lunatic thing, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, it's great for people who can do it, get through it. Any extra help with stones, because stones are so broken in general, is great, but it's not something I feel like people should get upset about. And I have seen some people have gotten to the point now where they're calming down on it, they're realizing that, but, you know, I digress. So overall, I think that all this is great. Knowing that we are getting the Valentine's Day stuff a few weeks ahead of time is also really nice. Gives us kind of an idea of projection on when we can expect some other stuff in the future, but the bigger thing I wanted to talk about was actually a topic that was brought up in my video last week, where I talked about 5 characters that I wanted to see buffed and what I would like to see done to them. And I framed those buffs in that video, and I, like I said in the video, didn't put a ton of thought into, you know, making character sheets and all that, because it's all just pointless speculation at that point. But I framed those buffs that I would like to see them get around what we've come to expect from Netmarble's buffs, and we've seen plenty of Netmarble buffs at this point. And recently, we've seen them come for Original Zero, Orochi Leona. We've come to expect a kind of pattern with what they do, and that typically requires them to change some numbers around on some skills, add some effects to the pre-existing skills, shorten up maybe the animation speeds, and then also make them cancelable, things like that. However, people in the chat were very quick to kind of point out things like, for instance, yes, even if these characters got said buffs, they still wouldn't necessarily be viable. The buffs aren't enough. They need to go in and pull out skills entirely, change skill animations entirely, take away grab skills and replace them with, like, strike skills or whatever the case may be, things that are better than, you know, a grab, for instance, or, you know, rework these characters from the ground up. And I like to play devil's advocate in general in life with everything, because I feel like if you do not do that, as you'll see here, this is where we start getting our rubies, and we did really, really well on this, guys. Basically, with this, we ended up with almost 5,000 rubies from these boxes, so go team. But I like to play devil's advocate on this kind of stuff because I do have a background in coding. I know Python pretty well, and there are other coding languages that I have studied. And when we talk about coding things, it takes a lot of time to code things, specifically, especially when you start to get into object-oriented stuff, but I digress, that's, you know. But when you talk about a business model trying to do these types of things, I can see it from both sides, right? Yes, I would completely agree. To make some of these characters viable, strip them of these skills, take out the skills. Change those skills to something different, make them an entirely different thing, rebuild these characters from the ground up, change leadership skills, so on and so forth. I agree that that is necessary to make certain characters meta. But I guess it depends on what your idea is of meta, right? If you're wanting a character to just be the next Gonitz, which for those who do not remember, Gonitz used to be terrible in this game, like a meme. He was terrible. And then they buffed him, and he was one of the first characters they ever kind of went out of their way to buff, and then he just became broken. And they overdid it, and he was just stupid. But I feel like there's a fine line, and at a certain point, if you're talking about completely rebuilding these characters from the ground up, that takes a lot of hours. Coding is not easy. It is not something that you can just go in and a couple clicks and you're done. It's not like in the movies where you see the guy typing a mile a minute and then all of a sudden he's got something done. That isn't how it works. It takes a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of debugging. There's a lot that goes into it. And when it comes to rebuilding a character from the ground up, I feel like that's very time consuming for them, especially when they've got probably a fairly small team and they're working on a lot of other stuff and they've got kind of a lot of different things in the oven at one time. So I feel like it might be a little unrealistic to expect out of them. As much as I would love to see it myself, I would love to see it, but I do understand in the background the amount of work, even in a small capacity. I do understand how much work goes into it, so I can kind of understand the idea of, well, if we're going to just rebuild this character from the ground up, we might as well just release a new version, because at least then we're getting something out of it, because this does take time, and it does take effort, and coders aren't cheap, so coders make a decent amount of money, just saying. So it's one of those things where I can see it from both sides, but I do agree with the fan base, I do agree with the community. They do need to probably step it up a little bit, because these buffs I don't feel like change much. Yes, they make these characters more viable. They are definitely better. They are definitely more usable now. But do I think that they are anything that is super special? No. I don't think that Orochi Leona, Orochi himself, nor the original Zero buffs made any of them top tier. Now, Original Zero, I think, turned out the best of the three, arguably. And I guess I could throw Terry in this conversation too. He did also get a buff. But, you know, I guess it depends on what you're looking for. If you're wanting them to just wholesale break characters, then do you really want all these characters to be the next Gonets? Do you really want that? I don't know. I can see it from both sides. It's tough for me to kind of pick one. I don't know. It's a tough one. I do think that they could step it up, though. I think there are certain things that they could do. I don't think changing the leadership skills would be that tough. Some of these leadership skills and some of these characters are very outdated, very weak for what is now kind of considered the bar that you need to hit in order to be a good leadership skill. And leadership skills don't make or break characters, they don't make or break the game, but that's a little thing that they could change. It's an example. So there's certain things that they could do, I do agree, but I also think that people should probably be a little forgiving of them on these things. At least they're willing to go back and do these things at the end of the day. Most games I've ever played, they completely forget the old characters and just move on to the new ones. This dev team should get a lot of credit for caring enough to go back, do this, and even give us input into it. Let us give input into who we want to see buffed. Give these guys a little bit of credit. Most games that you play, never going to do this kind of stuff. Or if they do, it is not going to be as kind of rapid fire as they've been doing it. So those are the topics I wanted to cover, guys. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe. About 5,000 rubies for those boxes. That was awesome. But anyway, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. So we finally got through Expert Guild Raid and have unlocked Lunatic. And now everybody in the guild wants a shout out. Alright. Shout out to Sammy, shout out to Chrono B, shout out to Zach, shout out to King Tyar, shout out to Vegito728, shout out to Yosh, shout out to everybody in Blue Cola. Now that I have gone ahead and made you all famous, you guys can go ahead and send me that royalty check in the mail priority. I will take it by the 1st of every month so I can go ahead and put that towards my mortgage. I appreciate that. Good deal. Thanks. Bye.